Guys, now is the time. We've got basics of Laravel in terms of just understanding what are views, what are controllers, models, where does the database reside, what is Blade templating engine, what is Tinker, how to use Eloquent. So you've got just a basic overview of how Laravel functions. Now is the time. In fact, starting from here is one of the most important part of understanding Laravel, and this is where you'll start to code. It's time for action. We've got an overview, we've got where we want to go, and now is the time to start coding. So basically, from here on, from this video on, you're going to learn how to create a CRUD functionality in Laravel. So how to create, read, update, and delete, which is basically your common functionality that you would use in any of your projects that you make with Laravel. Okay, so brilliant. So let's get going. Let's understand. And in this part, you're going to learn how to go ahead and include the Bootstrap files and how to go ahead and create some forms and basically the create functionality. Okay, so let's begin. So before we begin, guys, just want to give you an overview what we're going to make starting in this video. Basically, what we want to achieve is we want to go ahead and create a post, a kind of blogging system, wherein we should allow the user to be able to create a post. We should be able to display all the post at a page. We should be able to delete it, update it, all of that kind of functions, all of that kind of functionalities. You'll be able to create that. Okay. So let's begin then. What we're going to do is basically go on to the resources, views, and go to our welcome.blade.php. So this is where all the codes are going on over here. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of what's there inside of the body. Or if you just want to create start from fresh, we can do that as well. Okay, so do this. Okay, we'll just name our project, let's say blogs. We'll name it as blogs. Okay, and over here we're going to go ahead and in fact, let's do at yield, what we learned from the Blade templating engine to make it more dynamic. Okay, so at yield, and I'm going to say title. Okay, and then this is the place where all the content would go, so I'll say at yield content. What you can also do, guys, if you want this is basically a template that we are trying to create, and let's in fact create the template inside of a layout file. Okay, so I'm just going to delete everything that we had created earlier just to be able to have a clean slate. Okay, so I'm going to delete the about as well. Okay, so inside of the layouts directory, we're going to create a master layout. Okay, so master.blade.php. Okay, and I'm just going to copy the whole thing and put it there. Okay, so this is basically my page, and I'll close this. And inside of my welcome.blade.php, so remember, guys, in the web.php, where we have all of our routes, let's just get rid of all of this. So we have just one route, which is the path to the home directory, and this is going to load up the welcome.blade.php, which is this file inside of our root directory. Okay, let's delete the test.blade and other as well. We don't need them. Okay, so now you can see we have views and we have welcome.blade.php, and this will be to the home directory. When you load up the home directory path, this will be loading up, and then you have layout. So all I'm going to do is just include this layout, not include extend, because if you just include it, you won't be able to add new things inside of it. So I'll just do extend, so just be careful on that. Add extends, and it's inside of the layouts directory, and then the name of my layout is master. And then over here, I'm just going to say the title. So let's say section, add section, title, and I'll put the title name as blogs. Okay, so see what's going on. We are extending the layout.master, which means we are extending our this file. Okay, and then in place of the title at yield, this will be replaced by the title, which is blocks, and then we'll also do at section, and I'll say content, and at end section. I just say test over here. Just do some lorem ipsum for that matter for now. Okay, so we are extending our master.blade.php. At this place, the title would come, which is basically this title, and at this place, this will be replaced by the content, whatever we inserted over here. Okay, and that's what will be displayed on the home page. So if we go to our home page, refresh the page. Okay, sorry, I think I accidentally closed it. So http my project, my new project.test. Great, so you can see you have lorem ipsum, and the master.blade.php file has been extended. Okay, great. So one more thing, guys, in this layout file, let's say later on you have certain view files that you want to extend this layout to. You can always use at yield styles. So at this place, the style sheets can be inserted, and similarly you can also do that for scripts as well. So if you come over here and say at yield scripts, so later on, you can go into the view file and just say add section, the name of that, which is styles, and just include the style sheet as well. So that is also possible. So just want to show that to you how. So let's say if I say over here at section, and if I say styles at end section, and inside of this I can just use my link tag and then include my style sheet over here. So just give the path to the style. Okay, and similarly for scripts as well, you can see this script. So at this point my JavaScript file will be inserted if I include like a script source, and then whatever source I give, whatever JavaScript code I write over there. Okay, so we'll leave that. We won't include that. We're just keeping that as an option for now. Okay, what we want to do basically include Bootstrap. So guys, Laravel already provides you the Bootstrap out of the box, so all we have to do is just include it. So if you go to public, then if you go to CSS, you have app.css. Okay, so this is the file basically which would contain the Bootstrap. Okay, so all you have to do is just include it. So if I go over here and say link, and then in order for you to get the URL, there is a URL function, but you need to use that using the Blade templating engine, this two double curly braces for the echo. So remember this for echo, and inside of the URL you can say slash, and this would mean the root URL, and then you need to pass the URL up until that. So if I say app.css, and now if I go and check whether that is being included, I'm gonna go ahead and just check that. Oh, that's not being okay. I think the path might be incorrect. Let me just check. It should be public, I guess. Let me try that now. Close this. Check it. Okay, I think there's something wrong. Okay guys, when you are actually using the URL to include a link, this is giving you path up until the public directory. So all you have to do is just use CSS. So the reason why it was not working because this file was inside of the CSS directory. So it's CSS and then app.css. Okay, so then that's how it will include that. So now if we go back and refresh, sure enough that is being included. If you check page source, click on that. Sure enough, you've got the entire file included, and you can see some changes over here as well. The colors change and the texture and all of that. So now the Bootstrap CSS is accessible. Obviously, we need the Bootstrap JS as well. So all I have to do is just say script source, and then remember we need to use the URL. The reason why we're using URL, not just the slashes over here, because in case if you're uploading your project live on the live server, the URL might change and you might get some kind of an error. May not necessarily that you get the error, but I'm just wanting to avoid that. So this URL function is basically going to give me the complete URL up until here. So if you check, you can see that you have my URL, the home URL as well, and then this is being appended to that, and this is coming because of this. Great. So let's go ahead and use the URL function again, and this is the root URL, and again I need to include the JS file. So guys, JS file is included in app.js. Obviously you can include your own files if you want, but I would prefer to use the Laravel pre-included app.js and app.css, which would give me access to the Bootstrap. So I don't need to include it from outside, but if you do want to, you can just pass in the URL over here, like bootstrap.min.css and bootstrap.min.js. Great, so we've got the access to the Bootstrap now. My powerhouse is ready, got the power of Bootstrap. Now I'm going to start coding. Okay. So inside of the welcome.blade.php, guys, inside of the section, what I want to do is basically, at this place, I want to go ahead and show all the posts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, in fact, not do anything in the welcome.blade.php. We'll create another file to be able to post a new blog. Obviously, this is the place where we will display all the posts, but we would want to create the post, so we want to create a page for that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create a controller, a model, a migration file, so that we can go ahead and create a database table with a name as blogs, or we can say it posts. Yeah, posts would be good. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we'll go to our command line, and the best part is that the artisan provides us with very powerful commands in order for us to make our life easier. So I'm going to give you the shortcut of that. So it's PHP artisan, it'll say make model and the name of the model. So name of the model, guys, remember in the previous video we learned it has to be singular. Okay, so I'm naming that as post. Okay, and it's going to create the database table, not create, but the database table name would be posts. It'll be plural of that. Okay, so the model name, and then I would say dash m would create a migration file for that. Migration file is the place where the definition of all the columns will be there, but it won't really create the database until we run the PHP artisan migrate. So this dash m is responsible for creating a migration file. So up until here, it's going to create a model file called post.php. Dash m flag would also create a migration file called underscore create underscore table. I think create underscore post underscore table, something like that. Okay, and then C, by passing C, it would also create a controller called post controller .php inside of the app directory. Okay, and then another flag with double dash resource is going to make sure that it will create all the CRUD functionality functions like create, update, destroy, index, all of those functions. This is just to make sure our job is easier. We don't have to write a lot of codes. You could actually create each of these separately as well, like by running PHP artisan make model first, and then PHP artisan make controller and the controller name, and then PHP artisan make migration, all of those commands, but this is the combining of all of those three. So you'll see the magic now when I hit enter. You can see model is created successfully, migration file is created. Don't get confused with the migration. Okay, controller already exists. So I think the controller was already there. Okay, so I have to delete this first. Okay, let's delete the whole thing first, because I think I might have created the controller beforehand. So migration post table, let's delete that. Okay, and guys, what I'm going to do is just refresh the database, because I had made some changes in the database. So before even we jump into this, I'll just refresh the database. So I'll say PHP artisan migrate refresh. Make sure if you're running that only when it's a test environment. If you do that in the production environment, you might lose all the data that's been saved in the database. Okay, so migration not found. Okay, I think there are a few things we need to do. Okay, we'll just dump the deleted files, because I think we have some deleted files which are causing problems. Okay, so we'll just do composer dump download, sorry, autoload, and then we'll delete everything basically. Okay, not delete everything with this command. PHP artisan migrate refresh. I think this time it should be migration not found. Create post table. What's going on? Okay, one moment, guys. Okay, guys, we'll run that command again. So the command was okay, PHP artisan make model post MC controller. Brilliant. Now it's worked fine. So now model created successfully. The first line says model created successfully. So let's have a look. So you can see that inside of the app directory. So ignore all of this. Let's close all of this. Inside of the app directory, you have post.php. So this has been created. Model is created. And then you have the migration file, which is create post underscore table. So if you go on to database and then go to migrations, you can see that this is the post table created. Okay, I'll close everything for now. Okay, and then it says controller created. So controller is in the app directory, HTTP controllers, and you can see that the post controller is created. And because we passed the flag as resource, we have the index, create, store, show, edit, update, destroy. So all of these functions are present for basically for CRUD functionality. Great, perfect. So basically we have set up an environment for our post functionality, block functionality. However, we still haven't created that into the database. So if we check over here, we don't really have the post table yet. The reason for this is because we have created the files, the migration file for that, but that we haven't set that migration file into action. We can set that into action by running the PHP artisan migrate. But just before you did that, guys, you need to obviously define the kind of columns that you want into the database. So if you go to the migration file, which is create post table, and that's what's been created over here, you can say create migration. This migration file includes all the settings for the columns. So what all we want? So let's say we want the title first. So inside of this function, we'll say title table, and I want that title to be a string. So you put that, and the name of that column would be title, and then I want that it should have content basically. So again, that will be, let's say, text. Okay, and let's say we'll put that as content. Okay, so basically we'll keep it simple. It'll be having that table will be having an ID as a column, then it'll have title. Okay, then it'll have the content. Okay, and timestamp will be responsible for created at and update at, all of that. Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and run the command, which is PHP artisan migrate, and this is the command. Basically we'll go ahead and run this file and create the database table posts. Okay, so hit it. You can see that migrated. Okay, so it has not only created the post table, but it's also created the users table, passwords table as well. Why? Because these tables weren't created, because my project was fresh, and this was the first time I was running the PHP artisan migrate. That's why this table, which is a predefined default table that Laravel provides in the project when you install it, and then this particular migration file, which is for passwords, is also provided by Laravel. So because we were running the artisan migrate the first time, it has gone ahead and checked how many files are present over here and created the tables for all of them into the database. So now if you come and check, if you refresh the page, sure enough, you've got users, you've got posts, and obviously you have got the migrations, passwords, all of that stuff. Great. And now if you try to run PHP artisan migrate, you can see nothing to migrate. Why? Because you've already migrated it, all of that information. If you add something over here, let's say I also want the let's say author. Obviously I'll have to put that as string. Let's say I want the author name. Okay. So you can see now a new field has been added. If I try to run PHP artisan migrate, it's saying nothing to migrate. Why? Because it is not going to go ahead and add all of these whatever changes you made. So what do we do in that situation? Let's say we have run a migration and we don't really we haven't really added something, and later on we realize we need to add something more to it. So in that case, you run the PHP artisan migrate refresh, okay, and then go ahead and run this again, PHP artisan migrate. Okay, so I think that should take care of it. Yep, you can see now that author has been created and all of them been taken care of. Okay, great. But just be careful of the PHP artisan migrate refresh, because it might refresh the data also that you have in the database. So be careful about what you are adding. All of this, you can do all of the addings first and then go ahead and try that out. In fact, let's try that if it works, if I add more information over here. So let's say I want to add, apart from author, I want to add category. And let's try to run PHP artisan migrate. And come over here, refresh the page, and sure enough, you can see it's not there. Okay, so again, we have to do refresh, PHP artisan migrate, and then if I refresh it, sure enough, I got category also. Brilliant. Okay, so just be careful that go ahead and define everything first, and then go ahead and run the PHP artisan migrate. Okay, great. So we got the database. Okay, now what we need to do is basically come into our controller, which is our postcontroller.php, and I want to go ahead and load a view. First thing we want to do is create a page, create a view. So you can see each page is basically a view. So we will create a view for creating the form for creating the posts. So what I'm going to do is we'll go to our resources where our views exist. Inside of the views directory, I'm going to go ahead and create a page called create posts.blade. Now we have to add the extension .blade.php. So this is the view which will be responsible for having a form where you can go ahead and add all the posts. So the best part, guys, because we have Blade templating engine layouts, all we have to do is just extend my master file, which is extends. And where does my master file reside? It's inside the layouts and then master. So you can see that this is the file we are extending. Okay. Obviously, we'll also need to mention the title, because it will ask for the title. At heel title and then content. Okay, so I'm going to copy paste that from the welcome.blade.php just to save time. Okay, so basically over here we are extending the master, and then we are naming that as create blocks. We're changing that title as create blocks. Okay, and then inside of the content is where we will go ahead and put a form. So since we have the power of Bootstrap, guys, brilliant. All we have to do is go to bootswatch.com. Let's select this one. Let's look for a form. So this is the form. I'm going to go ahead and copy all of this. And the first thing I'm going to do is basically create a div. And inside of the div, I'm going to use container class because that's the Bootstrap class. And instead of this, I'll paste this form. Okay, I think it's too big. Right, now if I go to this particular view, which is create post, it won't work. Why? Because obviously we haven't loaded that. Okay, so because this resource is available, if you run a command onto the command line called php artisan route, we have discussed this in previous videos, just a recap of that. So you can see that we don't really have the route for it because we haven't defined the route. We need to define the route, guys. So what we need to do is we need to define the route for our post controller basically. So all we have to do is, guys, route exists in web.php, which is inside of the routes directory. So all I have to do is just create a route. We have discussed in the previous videos how to create routes. You can refer to that if you are watching this for the first time, or in case if you're not sure about how to create routes. Okay, and then I'm going to say resource. Why resource? Is because this is going to provide us access to all the CRUD routes, so we don't have to write them individually. So I'll say resource, and then root directory, and then I'll say just the name of the controller. So I want to go ahead and define this post controller. Okay, and now if I go ahead, so guys, the controller name is always plural posts, but because we have used the shorthand, the shorthand method, which is why it's created post. So that's fine. Let's ignore that part. So now if I run this command, sure enough, you can see that automatically these routes are created, right? Okay, I think what we can do is let's name it as posts. Okay, let's not keep it as right. Let's rerun this. Okay, so you can now see that for index we have the post URL, which means root directory /posts for, and this will call the method which is index of the post controller, which is this function right here, this one. And then if I want to for the post, so when a form is submitted, this will be post request. So the other one was get request, this will be post request, and it'll go to the store method, which is this one. Okay. Then if you go ahead and create something, then it'll go to this URL, and that will load up that will access the create method of the post controller. You can see post control add create. So show the form for creating a new resource. So basically this is what we will be using for the form. Okay, and then you have the get method to show. So basically this will access the show method, this URL. So it'll be post / I think the ID of the post or name of the post you can use. You'll all be able to you'll be clear with this in a little while as you watch the next series of videos, but you can be relaxed. You don't have to worry about if you're not understanding any specific thing, so you can relax on that. Okay, so this one is for show. Then you have the update. So this is the for update method here, this one, and this is to update a specified resource or data in the storage. Then you have destroy, delete the data. Similarly, you have the destroy method, which is this, and this URL, which is post / ID or name of the post, and then edit. This URL will access the edit method, which will be used to edit something. So show the form for editing a specified search. So whenever we want to edit the post, this is where the method we're going to use, and we'll load up the view and all of that, all the functionality we'll create over here. Great, so let's begin with showing the form. So you can see this show method is for showing the form. It says display this. No, this is for displaying it. Create is the method, right? Show the form for creating a new resource. So we're going to use this one. What I'm going to do is just use a method called view. We'll load up the view, and over here we'll load up the create posts .blade.php. So where does this reside? It says inside of the root directory. So all I have to do is just say create dash posts. That's all. Okay, and then if I go back over there, now where would this be available? This will be available at posts/create. Okay, so now if I go to our project, this is our project. Okay, let's create some link over here, guys, before even we go ahead and start it, just to make our life easier. Okay, so we go to welcome.blade.php. Inside of the content, we're going to use some pre-existing card or something. Let's see what we can use. What do we have here? Okay, we can use navigation. I think that'll be brilliant. Okay, so remember, guys, welcome.blade.php is extending the master.blade.php, so it's got everything. All we are replacing is just the content over here. Okay, so we'll paste this for the navigation bit. If you go back, refresh the page, sure enough, we've got the navigation. We don't need the search bar, so we can get rid of that. And what else? We'll name the project as my blocks. Okay, it's my block. So this is home basically. So let's create some routes. So home would come to, so remember we can use the URL function, URL, and this should come to the home directory, which is this. Then we'll say create blocks. Okay, and this would go to, so remember we spoke about it, that if I want to show the form, so basically this will be showing the form to create the blog. So this will be root URL, and then let's see, this is the method we want to call, and this is the URL we're going to use. So home URL /post/create. So what this is going to do is basically this is going to go ahead and call the create method of the post controller and so we'll come over here and we'll load this particular view, which is create-posts. So now if we go and check, you can see we have create blocks. If we click on it, sure enough, we've got the entire form available. Go back. I think what we can do is we can have this navigation on all the pages rather than having just on this one, because that'll be cool. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take this navigation from here and I'll go to my master.blade.php and I'll put that right on the top. Okay, so if you go and check now, even if you go on the create blocks, you have the navigation here. Okay, great. Perfect. Now, the next thing we need to do, guys, is basically, so first will be to create blocks, and then the next can be to view blocks. Or probably update blocks, I would say. Okay, so we'll add the URLs of this later on, but you know, we'll just put in that down there. So update blocks, and then next can be view blocks. Okay, great. So I think these should be enough for us for now. If we need more, we can always add that later. Great, so the first thing we need to do is basically create blocks. Okay, so what's happening over here? We've got this, we've got the form and everything. I think it's too big. We can make it a little small. For that, what we can do is basically come over here and we'll wrap this inside of another div. So cut it first, create a div, and we'll give it a class of create blog wrapper. Okay, great. Now obviously we need to write some CSS as well. So what I'm going to do is go to master.blade.php, and I'm going to go ahead and create my own style sheet. So I'll go ahead and create a style sheet inside of the CSS folder. I'm going to name it as blog.css. blog.css. Okay, so over here what I'm going to do is first I'm going to include this file, so I'll say link. I'll just copy this and paste it to save time. Guys, I know this video is getting too long, but trust me, you will love it and you will enjoy it. I can break this video into different, but I want to create, keep the create section in one part and then do the rest in later. Okay, great. So CSS and then blog.css. So this will ensure this will go ahead and include this particular file. So this is my custom CSS. We'll write custom CSS. So in the okay, let's close the master. Let's close the welcome. Okay, over here. So this was my class, and I will write some class on that. So to this class, I want to say margin 0 auto to bring it in the center, and then I'm gonna give it a width of max width of, let's say 600 pixels. I think that should be good. Okay, so I've given a margin 0 auto to align it in the center and max width of 600 pixels. So now if I come over here, you can now see it's been shrinked. Okay, brilliant. So I've got all of that. Okay. Alright guys, now we've got lots of unnecessary stuff we'll get rid of. So we'll go back to create post.blade.php, and let's see what all we need. We don't need the legend. I think what we need basically is the the first thing we need is the title of the post. Okay, and then it's a little bit type of text. Let's get rid of the value. Okay, and then we need the content basically. Let's get rid of email. We don't need that. We don't need all of this. So we'll get rid of all of this. Okay, so example text area. So we need text area for the content. Okay, so title and then content. Okay, and then this will be text area. This is fine. Let's keep it like 6 or something. Okay, and the next thing we need the author basically. So I'm gonna get rid of all of this. I think we don't need all of this. So up until the button. Okay, so I think I'm gonna copy paste the text div and I'll put it here. In fact, get rid of this as well. We don't need that as well. And we'll say author over here. I'll put that as author name. Okay, and we'll define the names of these over here because names are not there. So name. So let's check the database. So we need title. So name is the title. So let's put title over there for title. Then we have the content. So we'll put the name as content for the text area. So name is content. The next thing we have, guys, is author. So we'll name it as author. And that's it. That's all we need. Okay, great. So now if I go ahead and save it, go back, refresh the page, and sure enough you can see you've got title. I think there's something missing over here. There is certainly something missing. What is missing? Why do we have like this? Why do we not have the input box? Read only. No, we don't want read only. This is also read only. Okay, we don't want read only. Okay, I think there's something wrong. Value, text input type text, ID value, form control, plain text, class and control. These both having same ID, probably that's the reason it's jumbling up. Let's change this to author. Change this one to author as well. Start email. Let's change this to title. Title. Let's try it one more time. Sure enough, we've got that, but it's jumbled up. You can always check. Where's the name coming from? Okay, just give me a moment. I'll just fix this. Don't want to take time on the video. Okay guys, I've cleaned this up. So basically what I've done is I've got rid of all the unnecessary divs. So we have div class form group, label, input with a class of form control. Similarly, we have label, text area, label, text, all of that stuff. And I'm just going to put some BR tags on top, so just to give some spacing. Maybe go to write some CSS as well, but just want to save some time. Okay, great. So we've got the title. I think we do need a heading over here. Just say heading. We'll say h4 tag, create post. Refresh it. Okay, create post. Okay, some BR tag over here. Great. Okay, so we've got everything here. Okay, now there are a few things, guys, which are important. The first thing is that you need to include a method in your form called Csrf. Okay, so this Csrf field is the name of the function. What this will do, guys, basically is create a token for you. Csrf means that cross-site request forgery. Okay, so it will save your site from any cross-site request forgery attack, any fraudulent activities, to make sure that the source of the data and the point it's received at is the same. So it's going to create a token and verify that. So if I save it and if I refresh the page, and if you check the inspect element, you'll be able to see that inside of the form you have this hidden input field created. So I'm just going to open the page source. You can see it bigger. Okay, so if you have a look inside of the form, there is an input tag automatically created by that function. It has got some values, it's got some token. So name is token and the value is this. So this token value will be verified once this form is submitted, to make sure that the source and destination is the same, and someone is not trying to redirect you to some other page and trying to post the form at their own site by accessing your data. So this is to save you guys, basically. Okay, great. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. And now is the form action and method. So guys, form action basically will be going to which method? Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and clean it up a bit. So you can see that the post method post is the one responsible for storing data. So what we want to do is basically when the user enters some data, we want to store it into our post table. So to do that, we need to create a post request and not get request. So we'll put the method in the form as post, okay, and we'll put set the action to that particular URL. So what is the URL? The URL is this. Okay, so I'm going to use the URL method, as you all know, and then I'll put root URL, and then the slug is posts. So I'll just paste that. Great, perfect. Okay, so what this is going to do is basically once the form is submitted, it's going to take you to this particular method, which is post controller store method of the post controller. So go over here, store method, and this will make a variable available called request. Okay, so request is basically going to give you access to this request is basically the class. Okay, and this request is variable is going to give you access to all the form form values. Okay, so if I go ahead and just say return request over here, and if I try to put something in the form, let's say title, content, author name, whatever, submit it, and sure enough you can see that this goes to post URL, which is basically this URL. Why? Because in the form, in the action attribute, we have mentioned this URL. That is why it is going to that particular URL. If I mention posts over here, and if I go back and try to submit the form, okay, let's refresh the page. You can see that is going to that particular URL. Obviously that won't work because that route is not defined. Only these routes are defined because we use the resource method in the web.php. So remember, in the web.php over here we had used the resource method, and that is the method responsible for creating all of the routes or to these URLs, which are going to give us access to all of these methods, which index, store, create, show, update, and edit of the post controller, all of these methods. Anyways, let's get back. Okay, so let's set that back to the original one which we had put, and let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, not refresh, but come back over here and say this one. Okay, and now if I put title, author name, submit it. Okay, I think it's not refreshed, that's why it's showing like that. So notice the form first. In the title, the name is title. In the content, the name is content. And in the author name, the name is author. So just remember that for a while. If you submit it, you can see that in the title you have that value, you have in content you have that value, and in the author you have that value. Obviously we had put the same names over here, that's why it's showing same, otherwise they will be showing different. And then you also have a token value being submitted. So remember, we had a input field that was created by the CRSF method, which was this, and this is the same token being passed over there, and Laravel will verify that to make sure that the source destination and the destination where it's being posted at contains the same token, and that's how it will verify that it's not a fraud. Great, so we've got the data basically. All we have to do now is basically validate it and then insert it into the database. Okay, so we'll have to do some validation, guys. Okay, where do we do that? Obviously in the same method, which is store, we need to do some validation. Okay, so Laravel provides us with the validation method, so let's have a look on that. Okay, this is the method. It will be better to go ahead and keep your validation methods separate, just to make sure everything is cleaned up. I mean, you can put this here as well, but I will show you the other way. So you'll say, instead of doing public, if you just define function, it means public. It's accessible to all outside the class as well. Okay, so we'll say I'm going to prefix this with blog, or I'll just name it as validate form. Okay, so this is the method, this dot slash validate, and then it's going to take the method request. Okay, and then what all do we need? We need title, we'll say required, then we need the content, we'll say required, and then what else do we need? We need the author, so we'll say author over here. We can also do some more validation, like we can say that it has to be string and all that stuff, but that's fine. You can always check that later on. I don't want to make this video really long. It's already getting way long. Okay, so we'll just wrap it up. Okay, so we'll call this function over here inside of the store method. We get rid of the request validate form. Also, you can't call like this, so you'll have to use this because this method belongs to this class, so you'll have to use this over here. Okay. Alright, so what this is going to do is basically validate that all of these fields are being inputted. Okay. In case if the user hasn't entered any of these, any one of them or two of them, then in that case it will not proceed further. So it will not proceed ahead of this line of code. Okay, it will stop over here, and this is going to make us available a session variable with error. Okay, which we can use into our view file to throw errors. So how do we do that? Let's have a look. We'll go to create post.blade.php, and we're going to create a new layout file. And the reason why we're doing this so that we can use the same set of code, reuse that code. Remember, we spoke about this, reusing the codes later on in other files, and it will be very clear to you in the upcoming videos. So we'll name it as messages.blade. Remember, we have to add the extension of blade.php. Okay, and over here, what we're going to do is we'll check at. So remember, we are using this blade templating engine tags at if not empty. What is not empty? Session. So we have a session function available. Okay, and that I think it'll make us available of error. Okay, if not empty, at end if. Okay, then we're going to display all the errors. How do we display the errors basically? So let's go to Bootstrap again, and let's have a look at errors. Okay, we can use this one. Let's copy this, paste it. If we set this equal to session variable, if we create a variable called session and we set this value equal to here itself, we can set it up on the top, or we can set up here as well. So just to save time, we'll do that. So this will check if this is not empty, which means if this has a value. If it does have a value, it will assign that to this variable. And now we can use this variable over here. So we'll get rid of this, and inside of here we'll use a p tag, and again we'll use the blade templating double curly braces for echoing this session out. Now if you go back, refresh the page, go back, refresh it, and submit it, obviously we don't get anything because we haven't really included this particular template. We have to include it. So let's go ahead and include it over here. We can say at include, and then we'll say layouts because that's where it exists, messages. Let's go back, refresh, submit it. Okay, it's not working yet. Let's have a look. Okay guys, actually it will not provide session, it will provide errors, not session. Sorry about that. It'll provide you access to errors variable, and you can access it like this, all. Okay, so it will get you access to this, and it will contain all the errors. Okay, so you'll put this equal to session is equal to errors all. This will contain all the errors. Now obviously we don't want to display all the errors like this, so we'll loop it over. So what we'll do is we'll come over here and say at for each. That's a PHP function we're using in this manner because of the blade templating engine. Okay, now we can use the PHP tag over here as well, but what's the point of using Laravel blade templating engine if you're not using that? This is more cleaner format. Okay, eventually it'll be converted rendered in PHP format anyways. That's fine. Okay, so we'll loop through over to session, not session, we'll name it as errors. Okay. Okay, let's name it as error array. Okay, so we'll do errors array as error. Okay, and then we'll close this at end for each. Close this. Inside of this we'll paste it, so we'll loop over the rest over this. Okay, and then over here just display the errors. Error. Okay, cool. Now let's try it. Refresh the page, submit it, and sure enough you can see that you've got these many errors available. Title field is required, content field is required, author field is required, and all of that stuff going on there. Okay, so what happens, I'll explain to you at this point. Okay, so a post request is made to this particular URL, okay, which is my request, mynewproject.test/posts, which is basically over here. If you check, a post request is made, then the route goes to the post controller.php. To which method? It goes to the create method of the post controller, which is basically this one. Okay, so it comes over here and then it checks the condition by calling this function validate form, which is a custom function. It checks whether all the fields are filled or not. Okay, because they are not filled, this condition fails, and it makes us available a variable called errors, and we can access the entire array of errors using this function. We are storing that in this variable and then looping through over it and getting all the data basically of all the errors. Okay, so this is going to redirect us back. So basically what's happening over here is that this is going to go ahead and redirect it back to the create post.blade.php view because there are errors. Going to put that back onto the same URL as we had used to access it. Okay, so that's why it will create back. It will not proceed further until you fill it. So let's cancel this out. I think this cancel is not working. Why? Let's see. Let's have a look. So guys, we'll put this button back. I think the reason why the cancel is not working because our JavaScript file is not included for the Bootstrap properly. So we'll go back to master.blade.php, and the reason for this, we haven't mentioned the folder name it exists in. So it exists inside of the public JS folder, and we've not mentioned JS over here. That is why. So it's root directory and JS and app.js. If you go back, refresh it, submit it, try to cancel it. Now it's working. Great, perfect. Now if I just fill the title and the author name, if I don't fill the content, obviously it's just going to return us the content error. Great. So guys, if you see, this is so simple. I mean, it's so easy. Laravel is making our life a lot easier by providing this particular functions and methods. We don't really have to check conditions by writing our own functions. It is saving time for us by providing us with all of this methods by just calling one function validate, is putting what all we want to validate, setting its value required, and it's doing all the job for you, providing us with all the error messages, making it clean. You can see how clean this is, right? Brilliant. So let's say you did went ahead and past this point and the user has entered all of that information. So in that case, what we want to do is basically store that information into the database. So if you remember from the previous video, we learned that we can use a method by setting a variable name. We can put this anything. We'll put post equal to new. So in the previous video we learned this, new, and then we're gonna get the app directory, so app, and then we want the post model. Okay, because remember, post is the one which is going to provide us with the access to all the methods in the database. So we're creating new, and then we'll say post, and we'll say we want the title. So to make sure that you use the same names that you have used inside of these input boxes. So for title, I have used title, and that's the same name over here as well, so make sure they are matching up. Okay, title is equal to, so remember we will have that access available in the request variable, and I did try to print this out and show it to you that in the request variable we have the entire data. So I will try to access the request and then the title. So just to make it clear to you, I'll just show that to you. Return request. Let's go back. Enter a title, content, author aim, submit it. You can see I have title. So I have this object available, guys, and I'm going to access the title property of it. So I'm saying that post title is equal to request title. Okay. Then similarly, I will say post. What's the next one? Content, right? So we'll say post content because that's the same name in the database. So make sure that this value matches what's there in the database, which is this value, right? This value right here is what you mentioned in the form. Okay, this could be different than this. That's okay, but it's better if you keep the same one to avoid confusion. You could have put this as titles, but you would have made sure that in your input form the name should have also been titles. Okay, and this value right here, this one, needs to be the same as the column name over here. Okay, so make sure you take care of that. So this is for database, this is for your input name. Okay, great. Now then the next thing is content, because that's the same name in the database as well, which is content, is equal to request content. Okay, then the next thing is post, and the next one is author, and then again request author, because that's the name of the input name. Okay, great. So remember in the previous video we learned in the Tinker, all we have to do now is just save it, post, save. So this is going to go ahead and save this information into the database. Okay, but once we save it, we also want to go ahead and redirect the user back to the same page with a success message. So how do we do that? So all you have to do is return view, or we can say redirect. We don't have to actually do the view. Redirect, we have a redirect method, and it's going to redirect to this particular no, what is the name of the URL? This was post, right? This one. So we'll say root URL and then posts. So remember, this will go to get method posts, and it's going to load up. Let's check. No, this should go to create, this one, because we want to load up the create method. Yeah, this is the get one for create. Wait a second, I think there is some confusion. Yes, it will go to create method because that's loading the create post template. Okay, so we will go by the get method of post create, and this will this will access the create method, and which will load up the create posts. Okay, so we'll say /create, and then we also want to go ahead and pass some success message. So you have a method provided by Laravel called with, and over here it will give you access of session. So in session we'll put the session name as success, and we'll put the value of the session as post successfully created. Great. Now how do we access that into our view? Remember, we were inheriting the messages.blade.php. This is the same place. We can do another check at this point, that if not empty session, and what was the name of the session? It was success, right? It was success, this one. So this is the name of the session, and this is the value of the session that we are setting. So we'll say if this is not empty, then go ahead and echo out the success message. This time we don't have to loop it through because it's not an array, just a value. So we'll set this session value to message, success message underscore message is equal to, so this is our custom variable, and we'll just echo it out over here. And this time we're not going to use alert danger, we'll use alert success. I think that was the name. We'll try it out, we'll see if it goes wrong. Okay, so let's refresh the page. Okay, there's some error. Category does not have a default value. Okay, I think we did create the category as well, but we're not really passing that information. That's why it's giving us an error. So let's quickly create a category, a value as well over here. I'll go to create posts. I mean, we could have created a select element and just selected that, but just to save time, I'm not going to do that. I'll just copy paste this. So what this means, guys, if you remember, we had created a category column as well, but we didn't pass that over here. So that's why it's an error. Okay, so instead of author, we'll say category and let user enter whatever category they want to enter. In real life situation, you may want to create a select option and give them options to choose from, but over here we'll just, for demonstration purposes, we'll just keep it simple. So category, okay, ID is category, name is category, that's fine. And again, we'll come back to post controller. We'll just add that as a required field as well over here. You know what, this time we'll not add this as a required field. Okay, but because we're saving that information in the database, we would need that value, right? So what we'll do is we'll say over here, we'll say category is equal to, we'll check if that value is empty or not. So we'll say request category. If this is not empty, then set this value equal to this. Otherwise, set its value to a default value of general, so it's a general category. In case if user not set any category, then put that to general. And obviously we have to save that as well, so we'll just copy this, paste it, copy this, paste it here because we've already checked all the condition on top. We'll say category, and I think this time it should work. Okay, we'll go back, create blocks, title, let's say we'll set the title to my first blog, content to my content, author name is Imran, and category is, we'll not put the category, we'll see how it goes. Brilliant, brilliant. That's amazing, guys. We've successfully managed to create our first blog using Laravel. That's amazing, right? So you've got the message called post successfully created. Why we got the message is because we're redirecting the user back to the same place, and we are actually passing a message in the session, and we are using our message template, which we are including it over here. Where it's gone? Yeah, we're including our messages template over here, and inside of message template we are checking the condition that if session success is available, then go ahead and display that value, and this is the value that we are displaying over here, and that's the value we were passing from our function post successfully created. Okay, if it looks complex to you guys, don't worry. Since it's the first time, you will get through it. It'll be very easy for you as soon as you create more posts and write more quotes. Okay, so we'll cancel that. And the best part is that if you go to the database, guys, refresh it, you can see that now you have my first block, my content name, category general, because we set that value to general by default if the user hasn't entered anything. It's got the time and all that as well. Okay, brilliant, amazing. So guys, we've created the post, and I know this video had been too long, way too long. I haven't really created any video this long, but I wanted to put everything in terms of create out of the CRUD functionality in this particular video. And in the next video, we're going to learn how to read it, how to go ahead and display information from the database of all the posts that we are going to add. Brilliant. If you did like my video, guys, please do subscribe to my channel, share my videos with others, and help others as well. Okay, great. Then see you guys. Bye bye.